Episode 118 of the podcast. This week we're talking about setting the mood, setting the tone, adjusting our attitude to think about the dog having a hard time instead of giving us a hard time, as well as some other ways to adjust the mood by adding scent and music. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. We can't really do much about how a dog's body is affected by fear. Because once they become afraid, the fight or flight or freeze instinct takes over, right? We can't really change what a body does when a dog is afraid. But here's the neat part. We can work on keeping them from becoming afraid. And that's where setting the mood and setting the tone and kind of shifting our mindset really comes in. Because if we can prevent them from reaching the point that they can't handle, what happens is that they start to be able to handle more and more. So there are a couple of ways we can set a mood. And first off is by having the attitude of this dog is having a problem, not this dog is giving us a problem, right? Be watching for that. And that's why I keep talking about calm, comfortable, and cooperative. We want to help the dogs to have a good experience, not just because we're wishy-washy, fur mommies, but because that's what's our goal, right? We want a dog who's calm, comfortable, and cooperative because that's what the good dog on a grooming table looks like. And think about that for a minute. Because I know sometimes people are like, yeah, but is it really? Yeah. When you have a dog on your table that you don't have to think anything at all about, that's just letting you do your job, no matter what tool you pick up, no matter what angle you need them to be at, and they just are the repositionable action figure, right? You lift up a foot and they just shift their weight a little bit and let you do it, right? That dog that is awesome to groom happens to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative. How cool is that, right? So if we think about the dog's experience, what the dog is going through, and trying to work toward and build toward calm, comfortable, and cooperative, right? To try to avoid the fear response, to avoid discomfort and frustration and stress and anxiety. Because you know what? Anxiety sucks. Now, I don't know how many of you guys out there might suffer from anxiety or have loved ones who suffer from anxiety. I have loved ones who suffer from anxiety, and while I have trouble relating to it because I have never had that experience myself, I can tell you it's not something I could just talk them down from, right? I mean, we think about it with people, right? Someone's like totally anxious and freaked out, and you're like, okay, this is going to take a while to calm you down. Like, let me try to help. But sometimes anxiety just crops up. Right? And we find that with dogs also. If a dog has become frightened, right, now we're just in damage control. Now we're just trying to calm them down again and try to help them to settle their nerves, right? Very scientific, settle their nerves. But I want you to think about, right, that experience has already gone haywire, right? So what we want to do is avoid that. We want to avoid anxiety. We want to avoid stress. We want to avoid all of those kind of negative feelings about being groomed. Because you know what? At the end of the day, grooming should be pleasant, even if it's not something they ever love. Okay? I often refer to it almost like when I'm talking to my own customers, like I kind of go, you know what? I like my dentist, but I don't crave going to my dentist. Right? A dentist appointment isn't something that you're like, this is going to be great. Very few of us feel that way about going to the dentist. However, I'm not worried about my dentist. I'm not afraid of dental care, right? So think about it that way. Like for a lot of dogs, they're like, oh man, I was going to run around the yard all day and I thought I was going to go see my buddy, but now here I am in a bathtub, right? But if they are not afraid, if they don't have any fears about it, if they don't have anxiety about it, if they're not overwhelmed by it, then really they're getting massaged with warm soap. How bad could it be, right? They're getting a haircut. Basically, they just have to kind of control themselves and let us do stuff on them for a while. And that could be like an hour to 2 hours, maybe more, right? I mean, certainly some of the show dogs could be a lot more than that, but really, it's more of an endurance run. So if we can teach them that this is okay and this is safe, right? And be thinking about that. One of the ways that we can do that is by setting the mood. Setting the mood and thinking that, like, I want this dog to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative, and I need to be watching for changes. So if this dog becomes anxious, I'm like, whoa, hey, what's happening? Right? If I turn on a new tool, I often turn like clippers on or any sort of loud object on by saying first, loud noise. So the dogs that I groom are used to me saying things like loud noise, and I turn it on. And I turn it on behind me and then bring the noisy thing close. Instead of turning things on right behind their ear or having the dryer in the tub and then flicking the switch and like the high velocity dryer, like instantly the sound is right there, right beside them, right? I turn things on a little further away and watch for, is this dog worried about that sound? Watch for it. Because I think we should be assuming that unless they have been taught, they're going to have an issue with something. They're going to. And how do most dogs handle an issue with something? Well, most of them will either try to flatten on the table, right? They're like, they're the dog that you can't get to stand in the tub. Or they try to flee and they're blocked because they're usually on a grooming loop of some sort. Or they can freeze. And freezing is another one that's big too, because sometimes groomers will assume that that's a dog who's being good and miss the freeze when they're like, I swear to God, don't make me jump at you. Like, that's a dog that's ready to act. Like, they're just frozen and who knows what's going to happen next. So when we think about helping them to relax and setting the mood that, like, okay, I'm watching for times when you're having trouble. And I'm willing to adjust what I'm doing if you have a hard time, because I've already talked to your owners about that. Your dog may not be done beautifully today because I don't know how your dog is going to respond to all of the equipment that I have, right? Beautiful trims come with dogs who are well trained. No, here comes a tricky part too. We also have to help our owners find out what that is, right? And that's not, let's sit on the sofa and massage your feet while we watch TV, because I don't know about you guys, but that I have not found that owners massaging feet has really helped with anything, because dog nail trimming is very different than dog foot massage. And so we need to be thinking about what kind of instructions do we give our owners to help set this mood at home too, right? We want them to be able to touch their dog all over and be able to touch them with stuff and things. Not worry about brushing them, because that can turn into fights at home, right? We're setting the mood. And the dog needs to start thinking that it is so normal to be touched all over. And right now, here in New England, with snow on the ground, I can tell you my dogs are getting wiped down multiple times a day, and we're picking snowballs out from between their toes, right? That's so normal. And my dogs are like, oh, okay, yeah, of course. That's just what we do. Right? And it's not just me, my husband does too, right? And I notice he does it differently than I do. And that's the kind of thing we need to have our owners start realizing, that their dog should be comfortable with any type of touching at home. And a lot of the dogs that we see in the grooming shop setting, if they are uncomfortable with something, the owners just give up. Okay. And they just stop, right? So we also need to help owners understand, like, bring him back to calm and try a little bit more, right? They also need to be training. At the end of the day, we are only responsible for the health and safety of the dog on our table at that time. The dog's in our care, right? That dog goes home, that owner is the one who's responsible for getting him groomed and keeping him clean and keeping him healthy. Not me personally. They're responsible for training their dog. And we can add some of that back into their pile of to-dos. Because, dogs shouldn't be coming to the grooming shop half feral. That is not our job, right? That just takes time away from good customers who train their dogs. So when we talk to our owners, we also need to kind of remind them, like, oh, this isn't going to happen all in the grooming shop. You have stuff to do at home too, right? And find out what they're doing. Find out what they're doing. Maybe they're forcing it every time. Like, no, I said no, and they grab hold and they grab tighter. Or a lot of these little dogs that are so worried about having their eyes touched, it's because the owners are holding their mouth shut and pressing down on the cartilage on the tip of their nose and actually choking them out while they're trying to pluck eye boogies out. Like, find out what owners are doing. I cannot tell you how common that one is. They're like, oh, I keep telling him, it doesn't hurt you. I don't understand why you're being like this. No, no. Of course the dog hates it. Sometimes we're accidentally teaching a dog to hate it. So we need to set the mood. Like, hey, you're fine. Everything's cool here. Let me help you be calm about it. And there are a couple of ways that we can set mood. We're going to talk about that next. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. A couple more ways to set the mood. So if I have a dog that I know is going to be worried, if I were still in a shop setting, I am in a shop setting a couple days a week, but mostly I'm a house call groomer, right? But in a shop setting, I try to make sure that that dog is during a fairly quiet time. Okay, and what I mean by that is, don't take that dog that has a problem on a busy Saturday. Like, that's kind of like a Wednesday afternoon kind of dude, right? Like, okay, I don't know how this dog is going to be, or I do know that this dog is worried and we're working on it, so let's see if we can book a quieter time. Now, a couple things happen with that. One, perhaps quieter is a little less distracting for that dog. But two, the other important one, if that dog is all stressed out, they're not stressing out any other dogs that are in there, right? Like, that would be for, well, they might still be stressing out other dogs that are in there, but you don't want to have like multiple dogs inexperienced watching someone have a meltdown. And let me explain why. So we talk a little bit about social learning with dogs. Like, they're observing and they're paying attention to what's going on around them. Now imagine like a room full of little kids, and one kid is screaming bloody murder when they're in the chair getting their hair cut, right? Or at the dentist office. And all the other little kids in the room, what would we expect them to do? And I realize that's being anthropomorphic. However, it does seem to be what we observe in dogs. They're watching. They're like, whoa, dude, I thought everything was cool, but did you see what's going on over there with Sparky? What's happening over there? I'm nervous, right? So if we're thinking about that, like, okay, we're going to book you on a day that's calmer, or at a time that's calmer, with other dogs that are totally chill, right? Sometimes just observing that other dogs get dried and don't have a meltdown. I was mentioning this to a groomer pretty recently, and they said that, yeah, their dog definitely, is a calming force when they're like, okay, let me show you on this dog. Like, I'm going to put my own dog on the table and let the other dog that's nervous in the crate observe this dog on the table, their own dog who's like, oh, hey, I'm on the table. No big deal, right? There are ways for us to kind of help facilitate some social learning. There are also ways that we can make it really, really hard and scary for another dog. So if we are booking them at a time that's slower, there won't be as much chaos happening all at the same time. And that's one of the ways that we can set the mood. Now, another way that we can set the mood, I kind of like using music. And I'm going to add I've been redesigning the website, but I have an affiliate link for iCalm Pet. And that's, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Through a Dog's Ear, but their music is selected and changed up to help dogs be calmer, to help dogs calm down. And you can buy download, or you can buy a CD, or you can buy their special little speakers. But I use this stuff when I'm worried about a dog being a little bit scared. So as a house call groomer, I just have it on my phone and start playing music. So think about, like, it's not high tech, and it might not help, but it's harmless, totally harmless, to go ahead and put on some music. Honestly, the calming music, for me, I find it slows me down. So I have, it calms me a little bit too much. Like, I really have to think about, like, okay, but keep working fast, right? Like, it starts to make me nod off. So I sometimes put on headphones if I have calming music on for the dogs. But I will be adding that affiliate link, the iCalm Pet, for the Through a Dog's Ear. I have a variety of them for my own pets and for the dogs that I groom. And I find it helpful. Certainly no harm done, right? So if you have like a little speaker or something next to where a dog is maybe sitting in a crate, just with some relaxing music, no harm. No harm in doing that. Now, another way to set the mood, right? I know sometimes people use scent. And here's the thing. So essential oils, all right, as an individual, I really like essential oils. I think that they smell awesome. I really like them. However, I do think that we have to keep in mind that dogs' sense of smell is so very, very different than our own. And I think that for some of us, if we are using like an essential oil, we don't necessarily notice if it's very strong. But every once in a while, you'll have a customer come in or another person come in and go like, whoa, dude. Like my husband hates lavender. I love the smell of lavender, but he'll come in, he's like, oh God, that's awful. I'm like, and I hadn't even noticed it yet, right? We all have our different calibrations for our nose, calibrate our nose settings. But for a dog, like if it's an overwhelming smell, I want you to think about an overwhelming smell for a dog could be a lot like high volume music for us. Some of us like listening to things that are really loud, and others of us find it stressful or find it really tedious and tiring, right? So be thinking about that if you have like a scented candle or if you're using essential oils to help calm a dog. To be thinking about that some dogs might find that really overwhelming. And think about it as if the music was just too loud and there's no way to get out of the room, right? If it's just too loud. And, we could also make the parallel that just too busy for the eye. But I think too loud is easier for us to think about as identifying that, my ears would get tired, right? Like I would be bombarded. It would really bother me. So be careful if you're using something like lavender. That just a little bit, like just a smidge, if you're going to try using it. And then there are some essential oils that aren't good for cats. So be aware too that there's some controversy about using essential oils. But I also want to talk about another scent that we can throw in, and that's pheromones. Pheromones, oh my God. So here's a scent that we don't even pick up on, but the dogs do. And pheromones are things like Adaptil. You might have heard it as dog-appeasing pheromone. That's definitely what it used to be called. Adaptil is a brand name. I believe Sentry also makes a version. But what it is it's the pheromone. It mocks the pheromone that a mother dog gives off when she's nursing her puppies. It is meant to be calming, right? And it's a scent. It's an odor. It's picked up by their nose. However, it's not something overwhelming for them. And while it might not do anything, it could help, and it's harmless. It is harmless. It is okay to have around cats. It's okay to, have all over the place. I use, there's a travel spray, and I spray it on my table, or I spray it on my grooming smock. I don't spray it on a dog, but I spray it near us. Just the place where we are. There are room diffusers. I'm not sure how well that would work in a grooming setting. Kind of those plug-in diffusers worry me with the amount of hair and stuff that goes around a general grooming shop. But there are room diffusers. Right now, one of my guys has one of the collars on. And my guys don't usually wear a collar in the house, but this is the Adaptil version of a calming collar. And basically it looks a lot like a flea collar, but it has this pheromone on it, and it's supposed to last 4 weeks. And I'll tell you what, I take it off of him. It's on super loose, so he can pop it off his head anytime he wants to, and he doesn't want to. I take it off of him and double check and, give him neck massages and stuff, and I ask him if he wants it again, and he puts his head through it because he wants it again. So if we have this product that we can also use that is safe, there's a version for cats. It used to be called Feel Away, but yeah, it's another version. The one for cats doesn't seem to have any effect on dogs, and the one for dogs doesn't seem to have any effect on cats. So they're products that are safe to use in an environment with both species, which is nice because they often get used when we're training in people's homes. So as another way to set the mood, right, we can have this pheromone instead of trying to make pleasant scents, right? We're just like, okay, let's use this pheromone. Now, other pheromones, I know I haven't talked much about pheromones, but I want you to also think too, other pheromones are out there too. And I was actually looking up some research about it and wasn't finding much. But there are alarm pheromones too. And so sometimes dogs, when they're stressed out, are sending out pheromones saying, this is not safe, right? You probably have heard people talk on commercials and stuff like stress sweat smells different, right? They're trying to sell us different deodorant. They're like, stress sweat smells different because that's a pheromone about alarm, right? That's like a pheromone that we give off like things are bad, right? And dogs do that too. And they sweat through the pads of their feet. And if they spray their anal glands because they're afraid, you might have noticed it smells different than when when we used to express their anal glands. It smells different if they spray them because they're afraid, because that's a stress scent. The scent around their mouth, there are pheromones that are given off near their mouth. And it's really fascinating. Anyway, really, really fascinating. But sometimes they're giving off these alarm pheromones. Now, what if we are also adding these dog appeasing pheromones? These pheromones that say, listen, everything's safe and everything's good, And think about that as part of setting the mood. Set the mood, right? We're going to be calmer with the dogs because we're looking for things like calm, comfortable, and cooperative. We're watching for when they have problems, when they're having trouble, and we're waiting to help them get past it. But we're also being aware of the amount of noise in the room and what kind of sounds are in the room and having some music playing that's meant to be calming, which I got to say, the studies they've done with the calming music for dogs have been pretty interesting. Like playing them in shelters where, as long as nobody's walking around, the dogs calm down much, much faster because this music is going. So there's some really, really cool stuff out there. And then adding a pheromone scent instead of trying to do something like an essential oil, right? Like the pheromones are safe. They're safe and they're species specific. So it's okay to use a dog one around cats because the cats just don't have a receptor for it. But to help set the mood and set the tone that this is a safe place and this is a calm place. And we're also going to back that up with our actions and help the animals be calm. Help the animals be calm so that we avoid the fear response. Because we can't change what their body does when it's afraid, but we can help them learn that this isn't scary. And we can help prevent fear and anxiety and stress and frustration by simply backtracking a little, helping them be calm, and maybe reintroducing things that they've seen many, many times before, and helping them feel safe. It's really important. And at the end of the day, even if you're trying to talk a customer into this or a coworker or or a boss or a manager, like it's good business. Dogs who are calm, comfortable, and cooperative are a dream to groom. They're awesome to groom, right? Like if that's our goal, then that's what we should be working toward. That dream dog, and that dream dog happens to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.